So we're some of the whānau for our block in that's Whangamareno 241B2, and we've invited you along today because you sent us information, but the whānau felt that it would be better if you explained it, because I did a really bad job of explaining. So the floor is yours.
Cool. So I guess all that we know is what Kelly had initially sent through in terms of the block of land and that you wanted to do some development on it. I've had a little bit of a look at the land. It's obviously Māori freehold land. And so my understanding, that's where I'm a little bit, we didn't deal in general land typically. And so we do land development, mostly subdivision, but anything to do with council, civil engineering and surveying, sort of our expertise. I've done a little bit on Māori land before, petitions, public petitions, occupations, and full petitions. But I don't know the ins and outs of Te Ture Whenua Māori Act, when you have to liaise with the Māori Land Court, and those other things. So that's where I'm a little bit grey on. But in terms of the land development process, that's sort of where our expertise is. And so from my understanding, what Kelly had said, you guys are wanting to do some type of land development on your property, perhaps starting with some papakaiing or something like that. And so all that I sent through was the initial sort of a PDF with some contours on it. I mean, from our side, the starting place to know what you're up for is really what do you want to do. And so typically someone would come to us perhaps with a bit of an idea. Look, we want to do 10 papakaiinga, wharekai, whanenui, whatever it is on the site. And then we can look at, well, what do the council rules say? Are you wanting to subdivide these, give individual ownership to them, so to speak? Are they just going to be, what are they going to be? So the first sort of starting place is really, I guess, for you guys to have a look at, well, this is what we want to do. We want 5 papakaiinga in this sort of location. And then we can give you an indication of what council are going to require, and what survey, civil engineering, resource consents or anything like that you might need from council. So I suppose that's sort of where my understanding is. Are we on the same page? Yep. So I suppose the first thing that I would be doing is, I think Kelly initially requested sort of a survey of the property. It's quite a big property, so you wouldn't want to, survey the whole thing. I don't think in terms of, I don't know what your guys' budgets and costs are, but obviously the bigger the land, the more that it costs. So it's sort of really just, we need an initial concept. What do you want to do and where you want to do it? And we can tell you from a council point of view, yes, that would be okay. And all you need is building consent, or you're going to need a resource consent as well for earthworks. It all depends on what you want to do. So from a planning point of view, I've asked Aaron to come in. Aaron's one of our senior planners here at Civilplan, and he's got a really good understanding of what council will require of you. And so I suppose it's maybe time to hear from you guys in terms of what are you hoping to do, and then, or unless you want Aaron to talk through a little bit of, what you could do there as what we would say as a permitted activity. A permitted activity means council, permit you to do it, but you're still going to need building consents where you're putting up buildings and building driveways or roads or things like that. So, yeah, it sounds like you want to hear from Aaron.
Oh, before that, my baby sister Maya's got a question.
Yep.
Are you able, like with the land development and the subdividing, are you able to do it in stages? Say if we when if we started with our papakoinga for our kaumātua, our old people, but develop the land for them, but be ready for the outer land, like sort of in stages, if you know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
would you do the whole lot at once? Because I don't think we're ready for the whole lot, but we do have main aims first, if you
Yeah.
get what I mean.
Yep, I totally understand. But what you do need to have is really, I suppose, a big picture of what do I want to do long term, and then sort of plan that out. So it would still be getting sort of a concept plan of what do we want to do on the land, and then we can figure out, yes, all of that can happen, or no, can't happen. And then it would be, okay, in what stages do we want to build it, like you're saying. So when it comes to the stages, that's when you have to be clear, we want 4 houses now, and then you'll have to apply for the relevant building and resource consents to undertake that stage. And it entirely depends on, things like, say, if you want to subdivide or have individual ownership of these areas, well, we need to know that, because that's a part of the development and the stage that we need to work in, that needs to go through the resource consent process, and knowing which people that we have to engage. Yep.
There'll be no selling of individual parts of land. That land will stay in the family forever. Just so we let you know now.
Yep. Sweet.
Cool.
I think that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. So perhaps, is there any other questions?
Me again.
Yep.
Would you be happy to work with a project manager as well for our papakoinga?
Yeah, no issues in terms of us who we deal with. It's preferable to deal with one person who's your guys' sort of representative, that represents your, what you want to do and see, and he's communicating, or she is communicating with you, and then we liaise with them. That's fine.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Kelly?
Good morning, Campbell. Thank you for both of your time. Basically, I think my biggest question and concern is the road. There's council. In terms of that, will we have to pay for that usage, or are we paying for the whole lot from the council end of where we would like to have the road into our property?
Good question. Maybe I'll let Aaron.
I'm just going with assumptions of council never having money for anything.
Oh, we like that.
And in that case, probably council would, for a general development, council would expect you to fund.
Can I just for a minute? We can't see your face. Sorry, Aaron. That's better. I didn't mean to be rude, but I couldn't see you.
That's all good. For a general development, council would expect the developer to construct the formed access all the way to the existing formed road, even if it is in council road corridor. I don't know whether there'd be any opportunity to get some funding from council through whatever pockets they may have for this development, but that's something we can explore down the road. But generally, it would be the developer's responsibility.
Yeah. So on general land, developers' responsibility to pay into everything. Council don't give any contributions these days. I understand that there is funding available through TPK at least. It's Punakokiri, in terms of developments, and I've heard they give something like 70,000 per house or something like that to help to pay for driveway services, etc. I think as Aaron was sort of going through it, you'd possibly, can't quote me, be allowed up to about 8 papakoinga or houses on the land before they would require you to form the public road. And so initially we would be trying for just sort of a driveway type structure coming off the existing public road to serve the land. But once you sort of got over that sort of 8 houses, it would be a threshold where council are likely to make you upgrade to a proper road standard inside that public road. So it's what they call a paper road in New Zealand. It's there legally, but there's no formation in it. Yep, Kelly.
You might have seen in our structure we have a paper road. I'm wondering if there's any chance we can properly use that from our next door neighbour and as well as another way. It's just an idea.
Yeah. At the end of the day, what you require is legal access. And so legal access is via a public road, which you've actually got two on your property, one coming from the north, one coming from the south, and one actually on the western side as well. There's a paper road there too. So all of those things do actually constitute public access. But what council will be concerned with is the formed access, and they have standards that you have to meet depending on the activities that you're doing. I think, as Aaron said in the email, any more than sort of 200 vehicle movements in a day, which might sound like a lot, but it's not actually. One house probably generates, I don't know, 10, 15 movements or something in a day. You head out in the morning, you might come home once, you come home at night, there might be 2 or 3 cars per house. So it's not, 200 movements per day is not actually that much. That's kind of a trigger point to council to say you need a formed access to our standards. Yeah.
I'll clarify that, sorry, Ken, with the 200 more to do with whether there's traffic effects to assess in terms of the size of the corridor and the formation of the corridor. That was related to the number of activities, with the 8 activities is kind of max you can do without a public road. In this case, because you're not subdividing, you may get away with a bit more leniency from council within your site, but in terms of the paper road, they're probably going to push for road formation, which, given it's a rural location, it's not too onerous. If it was an urban location, you'd be looking at footpaths and curbs and lighting and all sorts of things.
At the end of the day, you can apply for anything with council. It's just whether they accept it or not. They have their standard sort of rules. If you don't meet their rules, then you need a resource consent, and it's council's discretion as to whether they will issue that resource consent or not. So it comes back to, again, what do you guys want to do? It would be probably engaging an architect or draftsman of some kind to start to put some pen on paper as to, hey, this is what we want to do. Looking at those rules that that Aaron gave you, in terms of what you can do, where you can do it, the setbacks from the boundaries, setbacks from sort of any wetland areas, streams, or anything like that are on the property. And then we can have a look at actually, giving you a bit more detail in terms of, yes, we can do this, and this is likely the engineering requirements of it, and then you can start to work out sort of costs and everything like that.
Yeah, I'll just add, in terms of what council permits in this land, the Waikato district does have quite permissive rule framework for Maori freehold land. So you're quite lucky that you have lots of options in terms of what you can put on the land. For general non-Maori freehold land, just general land in the zone, it's very limited what you can do there to basically one house and farming.
Yeah, so if it wasn't Maori freehold land, you'd only be able to do farming activities with the farmer's house and maybe a worker accommodation or something. But because it's Māori freehold land, then all those other opportunities open up in terms of papakainga and wharekai, wharenui, full marae type activities is really what they're allowing for.
Thank you.
So in terms of sort of where to, I would be probably engaging someone, like I say, an architect, or someone that can do a bit of an urban design type concept, and you guys sort of knowing what you want to do. And like I say, I would be looking at it, what's the long-term vision, goal for the property, perhaps sort of drafting that up and then looking at, okay, well, stage one, this is what we want to do, 5 papakainga, and then we sort of move ahead from there. And once we've got that sort of concept plan, then we can start to put a bit more. That's the skeleton, and then we can put all the rest of the meat and everything else around it. Yep.
Sorry, my name's not up there and I've got to introduce myself. I'm Hingeki Waho. So just for me to get an understanding, is it you that tells us whereabouts we can build and can't build, or is that through the architecture and project managers? Because we know we've got streams.
Yeah.
Do you make sure that we meet the Resource Act kind of thing, if that makes sense?
So in terms of what Campbell sent through, I sent through a few setback distances that would apply. What was the one for stream? The stream depends on how wide it is. It's a bit hard to tell from the aerial what the stream on site actually looks like. But if it is less than 3 meters, there's a 12-meter setback from the stream. There's 12-meter setbacks from the paper road boundaries and 25 from your north and south. But otherwise within the area, also there's, 32 from a wetland, if there's any wetlands on site. But anything that's not within those setbacks, there's no restriction on buildings in those areas as long as they're for the purposes listed.
So typically, probably what would happen at this point is that you would probably have an architect or urban designer involved, and they would liaise with a planner like Aaron, and then they would come up. You might need an ecologist. I don't know how busy is the site with things like little streams, rivers, because when I say council's interpretation of what a river is has changed in probably the last couple of years. We're finding that even a little drain that's not even got water in it for 6 months of the year is now classified as a stream, because we've become a lot more conscious in terms of climate control and everything else like that. So typically you would have probably an urban designer working with a planner like Aaron to come up with the concepts, and they might need an ecologist involved if your property has got some wetlands and streams and rivers and things on it. So it will be a collaboration of sort of those 3 or 4 people, yourself, planner, architect or urban designer, to come up with a bit of a concept, and that's how you would sort of start that process.
Thank you for that explanation. Makes it very, very clear now.
Cool. So I mean, I don't know whether there's anyone that specialises in Māori land type stuff. Not that it makes any difference, but yeah, I mean, we can give you perhaps some recommendations in terms of an architect or an urban designer, or whether you guys know. Well, typically we don't work with that many architects. Like the architects usually come to us just from whoever the client has engaged. So it's more someone that would know the area and know what they're allowed to do in terms of those rules that Aaron talked about. And that's where the concept would kind of come from, as a collaboration between yourself, architect, and us.
Oh, that's fantastic, Campbell. Thank you. Because I believe that the family are making a decision to whether they would have a papakainga project manager. So, and they are more involved in terms of with the land. So we've just been asked whether we can actually find someone within our region that's nearby, and they would manage all that. So that way you guys do not have to worry about ture whenua. And also the good thing on our side within our family and our organisation is that we actually have our own family land lawyer, so that would be fine. There would be no problems at all. Everything would be passed, so you guys won't have to worry about that. Leave all the hard stuff to us. This is why we said welcome, come along. You won't have to worry about anything to do with Te Reo Whenua. We've got all, we are making submissions towards the Māori Land Court and so forth. So our project manager will be dealing with that. So that way you guys can just get on and focusing what's important to use in terms of, you know, with your skills and that. So that's brilliant what you shared with us. I feel like that's great. And I'll give it back to the team. I thought I'd better let you know that because I know that you were in a bit of a grain and we did want to share that with you. Just to make things clear so you don't have to worry. It just makes everything smooth from the get-go.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
So probably from here, you've got the PDF, but we could actually supply that in what we call a digital format, a DWG format. Which an architect would be able to use to start coming up with some concepts. So we can provide that material. I guess it's the matter of engaging who's the one that's going to do this initial sort of pen on paper. Is that something that you guys will go away and have a think about?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You have, because we've done a lot of interviews with project managers and people that do papakoingas and that, and what we needed to talk to was you guys, and yeah, you've just opened it right up for us now, so thank you very much. Yeah,
cool. That initial, like I say, the contours and that, it won't be 100% accurate, but it's enough to start a high level. You know, where do we start from? And then we can narrow down things like, well, we only need to survey this little bit, which is the access and where these houses are going, you know, so it saves you costs and all of those things. So, yeah, be able to use that information it's come from council generated data, and it'll be accurate to probably 0.5 metre or something like that. So it's good enough to start doing all your high level concepts, and then we can get a bit more detailed as we need to.
From my perspective, I really appreciate that you were able to give us this time because you're very, very busy people. Because when I tried to explain it, like I said, I don't have your background, so I really fobbed it up a lot. And now it just so makes sense, because they were looking at me weird going, what? So yeah, it's always best to have the experts come along and actually explain things, because even what you said about different things right now has just made a whole lot of sense, and our family will very much appreciate that fact. Yeah, we don't make the final decision, but you've given, so what we do is we interview plus we record, and so right now we'll be able to take that information back to the family to look and keep going forward. Kitty.
I think just theoretically, the question would be, if we've got all the consents, the urban architecture design, the resource consent and stuff, how long do you guys think it would possibly maybe take to like build like a road just to start with and then go from there? I know that's an answer, I mean a question few family members are actually going to ask, so I thought I'd better ask on their behalf before they get, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's how long is a piece of string is the answer. But in saying that, typically, you know, it's you probably want to allow 6 months to get your resource consents and everything in place. And then typically I see about a year to do all the building and things like that, because it comes down to how much have you got to build. What's the availability of your contractors? You've got to find someone that can do it, and then they've got to actually physically build it, and then you typically have to get sign-offs from councils and things again as well. So, I mean, just little small developments we sort of see take around that at least 12 months from sort of start to actually having some things there on the ground. Yeah, and then obviously comes up funding and all of those things come into play. But you probably have 3 to 6 months to get your consents, and then it's, you know, how quickly can I engage somebody? Do I have the funds to do it? Until we can start moving earth on the ground and getting things done. So the actual build sizes, build time is not that long, but it's all these other things that are around it that takes the time. So hopefully that helps a little bit of understanding. Yeah. Any final questions for us?
Have you got any questions at all? Mamai? Kitty? No, from the panel that's here at the moment listening, there are no more questions. If we do have a few that come through, is it all right for us to just email you directly?
Yeah, no problem. We can help you out with whatever you're doing, and yeah, just come back to me, and I'll flick it on through to the. We have a similar thing. We have PMs. I'd probably be the PM if we continued on the job. I know Jordan, he couldn't be here this morning, but he's very interested because he's Waikato Tainui and quite keen to get involved with Māori land development in those areas as well. So he's pretty keen to be involved, and then yeah, our PM, which would be me, just sends through to the correct member that you might deal with, or they deal with me, and then come back to you in the same way that the PM on your end would work.
Awesome. So I want to say to you both, Campbell and Aaron, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to actually present to us and explain what you guys do and how important it is to have all those measures in place as we start developing our whenua down in the Waikato. So from me and the rest of my lovely ladies here, we want to say thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.